Welcome to your lower body mobility flow. So for this one, we're really going to address the back of the legs and the front of the legs and even the inner thighs because those tend to get really tight without even people realizing. And it can restrict some range of motion and some rotation that we actually have in our hips and the ability to get into that full squat. So this one I love because it's really great, especially if you work at a desk. This is a great one to be able to stand up, do as you're taking a break from your computer and get yourself adjusted from that sitting position to a standing. So we're going to do everything in standing. So for this one, we're going to start with our hamstring stretch. And this is one of my favorite hamstring stretch because it's really effective to just get into the hamstrings, kind of breathe, and then gain range of motion as you continue in. So it's not about a long passive hold for this one. It's actually more about movement. So here I'm going to take my hip bones and I want to dive them forward into my thighs. And as I do this, I want to shoot my hips straight back. So unlocking the knees, they're always going to be bent. And I'm going to shoot my hip bones into my thighs, really shooting them, and then only extending the legs slightly in order to feel a stretch. So you want it only to be here. We don't want to get into the calves. So if you're completely straightening out, it's not really the effect. We get a little bit more below the knee. So keep the knees bent just here, and we're going to get that good stretch here, and then we'll come right back up. Okay. So again, opening, reaching those hips straight back into those heels. Keep those knees bent and then come back. For some, you might notice like, oh my goodness, I already feel a stretch. If I'm here, great. Stand right back up. You don't have to look like me. I have very flexible hamstrings. Thank you to gymnastics and stretching a whole ton. So it stayed with me. I think I quit 17 years ago. Yeah. Long time. So hips into your thighs, shoot those hips back, stretch, and then come right back up. Okay. And we'll do that again about 10 times. Next one we're going to go into is that hip flexor stretch right into the adductor. And then we'll do the opposite hip flexor stretch. So this one, I'm going to have one foot in front and then one foot in back. I'm not doing a big lunge for hip flexor stretch, okay? I actually want it to be quite short and just on my toe, which I get a bonus big toe stretch when I do this. So kick off those shoes as well if you have them on. Now I want to take those hips opposite of the hamstring where I want to get in the back. Now I want to get in the front. So I want to take that tailbone and tuck it under, hip bones up toward my rib cage. And I want to hold that position. I'm bending into my front leg. I'm going to reach up with that back arm, reach up as high as possible and then slightly over. Now in this position, then you can slightly reach, but I'm doing a big deep breath into here. Reach, and over just slightly. And you should feel that stretch start to come a little bit deeper. And then we'll drop and we'll turn. Okay. So now I want to stretch into my legs. So I want to draw this hip bone back. Okay. So this hip bone is going to come back to really just open up, kind of put a little bit of pressure into the ground with this leg, bend the knee just a little bit so you're not putting too much hyperextension, especially if you notice that you really do get really hyperextended knees. Put a little bend and then we're going to shift. So hip back. Okay. Hip to the back. Bend in that knee a little bit of pressure as you sit back and open. So it's okay to get those hips back, kind of open and sit into it. And then we'll switch to the other side. So again, little lunge, squeeze that tailbone, reach up as high as you can, keep reaching. And then you slightly reach over. Maybe you twist just a tiny bit and take a deep breath. And then again, we're going to rotate. So here, hip to the back. So it's not just out to the side. So we really want to make the difference between having that knee on the inside and having that knee on the outside. So knee on the outside, hip will shift back, pressure down. Shift your hips back to feel more of a stretch, shift it over. And at the same time, we're kind of getting work and elongation of those hips. So any groin pain, groin issues you might have, you'll notice that they might feel a little bit better. Hopefully that's the goal. And you're just going to rock back and forth between these 5 times. Now, the slower you go, the more intention you bring into what you're actually doing and where you're feeling it. You can have the legs a little bit wider in that adductor if you want to as well. But remember, it doesn't have to be extreme. As I said, I was a gymnast, right? So I can get into extreme ranges of motion, but I can also shorten the range of motion and feel so effective. And that is the goal. It's not about, being super impressive and being the most bendy, but it's being the most intentional in your body. That's what we want to start shifting to. Rather than the end result, it's the effectiveness and what we're feeling, okay? So shift back between that about 5 times on each side. That might be all you need, especially the slower that you go. If you go a little bit faster, you might notice, let me do that another time. Let me do the hamstring again. Let me do the hip flexor to adductor. So listen to your body and ultimately more intention, especially as we move through the week. You'll notice it's only going to get more intentional into the body. If you love what you're learning, don't forget there's so much more that I have in store. So hit that subscribe button, check out the other videos so that you don't miss anything and you continue to learn and feel amazing within your body.